Here are a list of things that I experienced in foster care that made me feel like I weren't a normal child. Before I say my list though, I just want to say I fully acknowledge that there will be people watching this who grew up with parents and may have not been able to do these things either. So I'm not saying this is exclusively for foster children. Some of you who weren't in foster care will be able to relate to this. These were things that I felt that all my friends could do that weren't in care, could do, but I couldn't. And these are also things that social services made out to me I couldn't do or had to do because I was in care. In no order, helping myself to food whenever I wanted. It just didn't happen. There's not much I can say on it. I couldn't just help myself to food. If I even tried, like if I'd go to the kitchen, I'd have a foster carer ask me like, what are you doing? If they heard the fridge open, they would run in to see what I was doing. There was only one foster carer who let me help myself to food whenever I wanted. And that was Catherine. If you've watched my videos, she's the one who I do the foster care diary entries on. And if you've watched those videos, you know how much she bitched about the fact I was having food. So she let me help myself to food, but then she'd write in her diary how much she hated me for it. I was never allowed to go on sleepovers. I was told that if I wanted to go on a sleepover, I would have to have my friend's parents' DBS checked. It is already embarrassing enough being in care. Can you imagine, right, your friend, just picture this. Your friend comes up to you and says, do you want to stay at my house tonight? My response would have to be, yeah, I'd love to. I just need to make sure your parents aren't first. Yeah, your parents need to be checked by social services, and yeah, it'll probably take a couple of weeks for the certificate to come back anyway. There was just no way that was going to happen. I would just say yes to my friend and then text the foster carer and say, I'm staying at my friend's tonight. That's why the foster carers would always call the police. I think social services saw it as I was just running away or being rebellious, when in reality, I just wanted to stay at my friend's house without having to tell them, like, your parents need to be checked out. I've heard social services aren't as strict anymore. I've heard they do it now more on like a case-by-case discretion basis. But when I was in care, it was very much, no, if you want to stay at this house, we need to DBS check everybody in that house. I was never allowed my own key, ever. The only foster care, that's a lie, only one foster carer let me have my own key. And that was the foster carer I lived with while I was pregnant. And even she at first didn't want to give me my own key. So I turned around and I was like, well, I'm not going to live here then. I didn't have my own key. So I would ask the foster carer, what time are you home? They would say 5 p.m. I would come back at 5 p.m. They weren't there. They then wouldn't come back until 7 p.m. sometimes. So I'd be locked outside for 2 hours. So the foster carer I lived with while I was pregnant, if you know my videos, Baby Stealer, I said to Baby Stealer, I said to Baby Stealer, I need my own key. I will not be locked out of the house while I'm pregnant. There is no way I will potentially be sitting on a doorstep for 3 hours at 8 months pregnant. I need my own key. I do get why foster carers don't always give foster children keys. This is the problem. You know when it's one person ruins it for everyone? I heard of a case where there was a child living with a foster family. The child had cut a copy of the keys without the foster carer knowing. When the child stopped living at the placement, he then came back and burgled the place. And obviously that's horrible and it ruined it for everyone else. So I get why some foster carers don't let kids have keys. But trust me, when you don't let a foster child have keys, that foster child, especially if they're older and like have more of an understanding, we know you don't trust us. It then does feel very much like, okay, they don't even know me and they already don't trust me. That's how it feels as a teenager. As an adult, I see it in a different way. But as a teenager, it just felt like, yeah, these people do not trust me and they don't care if I get locked out. Another thing that made me feel like I wasn't normal, which sort of links to the sleepover, I couldn't stay out past 9 p.m. without being reported missing to the police. And this wasn't a case of, you know, no one could contact me so that everyone was worried about where I was. I would be on the phone, I would be texting, but I'd still be reported missing. Meanwhile, I'd see my friends staying out till like 11 p.m, midnight, having sleepovers that I couldn't go on. Like, yeah. I could never decorate my own bedroom. There's not much to say about that one. I've spoken about it sort of before. I understand maybe why foster children can't, start putting wallpaper up or painting walls. Like, I do get that. But I mean, yeah, even like, every time you go to a new bedroom, like, it's not a bed that you've picked out. It's not a wardrobe you've picked out. And I know there are some people on here who, if you're 16, maybe you didn't pick your own bed and you didn't pick your own wardrobe. But I mean, yeah. I still felt like I could go to my friends' houses and their bedrooms looked somewhat the way they wanted them to look. Even if they didn't like their bedroom, they could still make it their own. Another thing that didn't make me feel normal is having to constantly have meetings about where my life is going. So CLA reviews, they used to be called LAC reviews. They're now called CLA reviews, which is just even more patronising. Looked after child, like what happened to good old foster child? We're not even meant to call them foster children anymore. We're supposed to call them, well, it changed to looked after children. And now we're supposed to call them child looked after, which all of them, just foster child. Anyway, so these CLA child looked after meetings, they are meetings that a foster child has every 6 months to just discuss where they're going in life. All the professionals sit in a little circle in a room in the foster home, wherever, and just talk about, yeah, what you're going to be doing for the next 6 months. I hated those meetings because it was like I was sitting there, but I was never like included in them. Nothing ever happened from them. Nothing, you know.